From the halls of NATO to the streets of Georgia and in the country of Russia, global fault lines are shifting and most people aren't even watching. In this episode, we're diving into 6 international stories from rising European defense plans to the eerie return of Cold War-style laws in Eastern Europe. Make sure you watch to the end because we'll be covering what's happening right now in Georgia, where massive protests are challenging Russian influence in a way we haven't seen since 2008. I am Mandatory Fun Day, this is Worldwide Wednesday, and here's everything you need to know in a couple minutes. Throughout the video, please let me know your thoughts, comment. I do my best to stay objective and unbiased, but I am a human. So I'd love to hear your thoughts as I try and present to you the best of my ability, just the facts. You guys help keep me informed and you make future videos way better because I always learn stuff from you. Give me your thoughts, give me your opinions. Just give it to me. Former UK Defense Secretary Michael Fallon lit a fire under NATO this past week. In a March 2025 interview with The Sun, Fallon urged all NATO allies to push defense spending from 2% of GDP up to 3%, calling 2% yesterday's number in today's threat environment. But why now? Well, it's because despite 2 years of full-scale war in Ukraine, many NATO members are still dragging their feet on meeting even the old 2% threshold. In 2024, 23 out of 31 member nations hit that target. That's up from just 6 countries in 2021. In 2024, Poland was the top spender as a percentage, with 4.1% of their GDP going to defense. This makes sense given Poland's history of being invaded. Their service members are absolute warriors. Estonia and the US are tied for second and third with 4% of their GDP. Fallon says that's a problem because the Russia's war machine isn't slowing down. He emphasized that the new target isn't just about money, it's about survival. The threat's not on the horizon, he said, it's already here. He also warned that cyber warfare and hybrid attacks on infrastructure, like sabotage of undersea cables and power grids, require a NATO that's more nimble, more funded, and more forward-thinking. It's a clear warning that European security can't keep cooperating with Cold War-era complacency. As always, thank you for watching my content. I appreciate you watching this video. It really, really means a lot to me. If you want to support me further, you can go over to themandatoryfunday.com and pick up some merch. I've got shirts, I've got hats. I don't know why I just motioned to the shirt twice, because I'm wearing a hat. We also have coffee mugs. The only thing we don't have is the approval of your parents. I can't get that for you. Website members get 20% off their entire order and will forever, and they also get access to exclusive content. This video's exclusive content is going to go over 4 major flashpoints that are taking place around the world. They're things that haven't really hit the headlines yet, but I think will be significant in 2025. But let's get back to the video. Russia is absolutely notorious for using cyber warfare. Cyber warfare is incredibly cheap. Offensive cyber warfare is incredibly cheap, and it's very effective, and Russia has been using it for a long time. Russia is also notorious for doing things like creating bot farms to go comment, inciting things on social media. They do a lot of that kind of stuff because it's a really, really cost-effective way to undermine other nations. But what do you think? Okay, what do you think? Should we bump NATO spending up? Something that we have to consider is the fact that a lot of countries do not have the infrastructure to just pump out more military stuff, weapons, ammunition, and equipment.
Are you saying there's something wrong with my gear?
Like, for example, Germany has recently started pumping out more tanks, but Germany has that infrastructure. The US obviously has the military-industrial complex. It's easy for the US and certain countries to just bump up spending because they have what they need in place to do that. But just as an example, France, when's the last time you heard about France's military-industrial complex? I don't know that it exists in a way where they could just immediately increase their defense spending by 2% or by 1%. I just had a little bit of a stroke, but I'm okay. I'm still here. Comment your thoughts. NATO's 3 biggest European powers, France, Germany, and the UK, are quietly preparing for a future where the US might not show up. According to a March 2025 Financial Times report, the 3 nations are discussing a 5 to 10 year plan to become more self-reliant militarily, expanding domestic weapon production, boosting troop readiness, and coordinating rapid response capabilities across the continent. This isn't about abandoning NATO, it's about reducing dependency on the US, given that their perception is that American foreign policy is unpredictable. Germany has committed over 100 billion euro to its military since 2022. France is fielding hypersonic missile-ready Rafale jets, and the UK is doubling down on Arctic and Baltic deployments. The French military is also starting developing a new missile defense architecture designed to counter Russian Iskander-class short-range systems. Meanwhile, Germany is planning a permanent military logistics hub in eastern Poland to support rapid deployment to the front lines. Together, these moves are laying the foundation for what insiders are calling European strategic autonomy, a concept that once seemed symbolic but is rapidly becoming real. I'm going to speak on Russian fires capabilities. Fires capabilities is anything that shoots really far and goes boom when it drops. Russia is almost inarguably a master of artillery capabilities. They are absolutely phenomenal at it. Part of the reason why is because they do not have to have an expeditionary military, so a lot of their equipment can be hardier. In an expeditionary military, like the United States' military, things have to be light enough where you can put them on a boat or a plane and send them somewhere around the world. Russia doesn't have that same requirement, and so things can be heavier, they can be hardier, and that makes it so things like artillery are significantly more effective in what they do. Russia has long invested heavily in its fires capabilities. Okay, the United States of America and many countries kind of seek a 90 to 95% solution for most of their military capabilities. Certain countries, though, focus a lot on one capability over others. In the United States of America's military, in the Army at least, as an example, the infantry is the focus. Everybody supports the infantry. And in the Russian military, it's generally considered that everything kind of supports artillery. I can't say that I agree with Russia on really anything, but I like explosions. We're going over to Poland and the Baltics. We're going to talk about landmines. Landmines are a contentious issue among many countries. In a move that has rattled arms control advocates, Poland and the Baltic states are openly discussing whether to leave the Ottawa Treaty. This is a 1997 agreement banning anti-personnel landmines. This would be huge, a huge reversal. But these nations have a front row seat to Russian aggression. They see landmines not as relics or as immoral, but as practical tools to slow potential invasions. And their biggest concern is the Suwalki Gap, a narrow land corridor that connects Poland to the Baltics. It's bordered by Belarus and the Russian exclave of Kaliningrad. If that gets cut, NATO's eastern members could be isolated in days. Lithuania's defense ministry released a statement saying the legal framework must match the modern threat environment. Estonia's chief of defense added that no defensive tool should be dismissed when dealing with a military opponent like Russia. Critics, including Human Rights Watch, warned that such a move would lead to more civilian casualties, but the calculus for Poland and Baltics has shifted when your neighbor is launching missiles into kindergartens. Theory takes a backseat to what's happening in the trenches. The biggest issue with landmines is the fact that they stick around after the conflict is over and they're very hard to remove. It is exceptionally costly to remove them, and there are landmines all over the planet to this day from various conflicts. That is why it's such a contentious and debated topic. A lot of countries will not operate with countries that are utilizing landmines. Moving over to Pacific Asia. On March 21st, foreign ministers from Japan, China, and South Korea met in Tokyo for the first trilateral summit in nearly 6 years. It was billed as a peace-focused dialogue, discussions on trade, regional stability, and cooperation. But the subtext was clear. The Indo-Pacific is on edge. China used the opportunity to promote strategic autonomy, a subtle jab at the U.S. Japan and South Korea, meanwhile, stressed alignment with Washington and maintaining freedom of navigation in contested waters. The timing wasn't accidental. This summit came just weeks after the U.S. and the Philippines conducted joint military drills near Taiwan. Beijing labeled them as provocative. What does that mean? Nobody knows. It's provocative. If you got that reference, how's your back feel? There's also growing concern in South Korea over North Korean missile testing, 5 so far in 2025 alone, including one reportedly using Russian guidance systems. Behind the diplomatic smiles of mutual suspicion, Japan's foreign minister released a carefully worded statement emphasizing shared values where possible, which basically means this is all a work in progress. On March 18th, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov made headlines when he claimed that the war in Syria is no longer just regional, it's a global ideological battle. In his words, it's part of a larger confrontation between a decaying liberal West and a coalition of nations defending traditional values and sovereignty. That coalition? Russia. That's why I did the air quotes. China, Iran, and North Korea. Lavrov's message wasn't just rhetorical, it was part of a speech delivered to the Duma, where he outlined Russia's vision of Eurasian civilizational resistance. The Kremlin has been using Syria as a proving ground for joint military operations, electronic warfare, and weapons testing since 2015. Now they're elevating it into a symbol, a front line in a philosophical war. This framing is designed to attract allies in Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East, where distrust of the West still runs deep. It's not just a war of bullets, it's a war of narratives. Finally, moving to Georgia, the thing I told you needed to watch this whole video for. I actually find this specific stuff really interesting. This past week, tens of thousands of protesters in Georgia took to the streets to oppose a proposed foreign agent law. The law would force NGOs and media outlets that receive more than 20% of their funding from abroad to register as foreign agents. If this sounds familiar, it's because it should. Russia passed a nearly identical law in 2012, and Putin used it to crush political opposition. Georgia's ruling party says it's about transparency. Protesters and the EU say it's an attack on free speech and a dangerous tilt toward authoritarianism. The protests have been growing every night, with over 30,000 gathered outside Parliament by March 20th. Riot police have responded with tear gas, stun grenades, and mass arrests. EU leaders have warned that passing the law could suspend Georgia's EU candidacy. For many Georgians, this isn't just a protest, it's a declaration that their future lies with the West, not in Russia's shadow. But what do all these stories tell us? NATO countries are preparing to fight harder and more independently. Authoritarian powers are linking arms and pushing back. And on the edge of Europe, a small nation is trying to choose its own destiny. Thank you so much for watching. Please drop a comment below. Should NATO boost spending to 3%? Will Georgia stay on the democratic path? What will happen in Moscow? Only time will tell. Please hit that subscribe button, leave your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you next time.
And I thank you more than anyone.